Crest 91.1 FM, where we talk about everything and anything about women. We get to amplify our voices for the voiceless women. We get to amplify our voices for those that have been silenced as a result of some of the harmful traditional practices, or even some things that are not just right, that has happened to women, the female gender. My name is Damilola Amo, and you can always call me Damstar. And as usual, let me remind you not to join those ladies that like to took my name and give me something else that my daddy and my mommy did not give me. So, and as usual, I've got my ladies. Yes, they didn't leave while Leaves Lounge left. They're still here, and they are here now. Hi, Jenny.
Hello, Jamstar. It's another beautiful Eve's Lounge moment, and it's great and amazing to be back to talk about issues, that bothers women and by extension, the society. My name is Janet Mark Ayongbemi. You can call me Jane, right? Damstar.
I just corrected you.
No, that was a honest mistake. I mean,
what
right?
kind of honest mistake?
Right? Right?
Who are you asking?
The person I thought would even, take my side. You looked away.
I'm on your side. Fair enough.
Okay, so Juliet, how are you doing?
I'm fine. Combination of gang and star.
Excuse
and,
you.
Jane.
Excuse you.
Equals.
No, the only gangster we have here is the person in charge of going up and down today. That's the only gangster we have here. And that's the voice you heard. That's Lumi's voice. That's the only gangster we have in the studio today. So hi Juliet, how are you doing?
I'm very fine. Good evening, everyone. It's quite a while on Eve's Lounge, and trust us, we're back again, back and better with interesting topics, interesting issues to highlight for your understanding, and of course to lend our own voices to issues and society. It's good seeing my beautiful damn stars.
Well, since you all have taken another name, I'm sure. Well, you're not referring to me. That can't be me. Because if you, wherever you are, just go straight to Facebook at Crest 91.1 FM. You can see that I really do not look like the gangster they are talking about. What fits me well is D to the AM star. That is Damn Star. Okay, so thank you so much for being a part of the show this evening. Go call your people. Those of you that have been listening to East Lounge, we're back. We're back and better. Go call them now. Okay, so while we were away, I saw something online and I was like, okay, I'm going to ask my ladies today. And maybe because it is even about women, about a lady, a girl child. And there's this controversy about mothers calling their daughters their husband's side chick. And I'm like, I started reading comments online. I saw some people saying, it's wrong. Why would you say your husband's side chick is your daughter? What kind of tag is that? And some were like, it's not a big deal now. It's just, calm down. It's just all for cruise and everything. So I'm like, no, let me bring it here. We need to talk about it. What do you think, Jenny?
Oh, well, we are in sensitive times. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about side chicks, it connotes, something that is negative in a way, because it's not something anybody wants to, in a way, publicly admit to, that kind of thing. Though, these days people are coming out to do these things. You understand? But then it goes without saying that these things are not, these are not the ways things used to be. So you saying your child that is a female is mostly the side chick of your husband, it's kind of a negative thing to say. And I personally, I do not subscribe to that. What happens to daddy's little girl, daddy's pet, or whatever it might be, but
no, maybe when she's grown. Like,
whether she's little, in fact, it's even worse when she's little, because that means you're trying to make that girl even know what a side chick means, which is not even right. Again, so there are so many things wrong on this level. From you introducing
Mommy Janet,
exactly.
It's not like that though.
Mommy Janet,
that's
are you jealous? Are you jealous? Are you jealous?
No, not that way. But for real, it could be fun as a cruise way. But if you look at it on the other side, we are trying to break traditions, break patterns and all of that. And whether for jokes or for real, we shouldn't promote such things, so to speak.
Okay, so you prefer that little girl,
yeah,
some sort. Okay, what about you, Juliet?
I'm indifferent. I'm in between.
So you can call
you
your
cannot
daughter
be in between. Pick one side.
Exactly.
I refuse to allow you to be in between. Pick a also.
Okay. Go, baby. Pick also.
I'm seriously missing, guys.
Pick one.
So you being emotional. Don't change topical. Back.
Waiting. Okay, actually, like I said, I'm in between. It could be a form of cruise because I've watched videos where you see, I think people even actually make a skit out of it. Yes, so when you see the little girl, probably 6 months or so, the dad carrying her, and the girl struggling with the mom, pushing the mom's hand away, and all of that. It could be a cruise, and looking at it from the moral angle, from Mommy Janet's angle.
New name, I like that.
God,
New name. Mommy Janet, new name, nice one.
Okay, so looking at it from the moral angle, we're in Nigeria now. We like moralizing everything, but sincerely, it's just cruise to me.
Just like while you were talking, I just remembered something for my kind of church. And maybe the kind of people I have in my family, they would say, that chick, hey, I rejected the name of Jesus. My daughter is not a chick in Jesus' name. You just spiritualize everything and just take
and then also looking at what the word side chick connotes in our society. I mean, looking at it from the moral angle again and looking at what side chick actually connotes, calling a little girl that name might, and she growing up with that name, might
so
in
she'll
a way
become side chick truly.
I don't know.
Honestly, that's another angle.
No,
that's
sincerely,
another
looking
angle.
at the meaning of if side chick, if it actually means something positive, so to say, in society, it would have been a good thing
Exactly.
to joke with a little child. But we all know what side chick is
Exactly.
now. You don't want a side chick.
It made me remember a trend that, there was a trend maybe 2 years ago where some women dressed as wife and side chick. You remember when I saw that trend?
Like,
I said, nah. That means, okay, you dressed as a wife of your husband, you're not looking too good. Then you dressed as a side chick, looking, chick. That means you're saying the side chick is better
than
you understand? Whereas it was just for fun, it was just for cruise.
I'm not gonna be
in some way you are kind of going with that trend of saying, oh, side chicks are always better. So then why are we now fighting side chicks?
I'm not going there. I'm not
Another
going there.
topic for another day.
Exactly. So let's just go on this music break. We'll be right back. Don't go nowhere.
Scar tissue that I wish you saw. Sarcastic Mr. Know-It-All. I'll close your eyes and I'll kiss you, 'cause with the birds I'll share. With the birds I'll share this lonely view. And with the birds I'll share this lonely view. And push me up against the wall. Young tuck girl in a push-up bra. I'm falling all over myself to lift your heart in case you're here. 'Cause with the birds I share this lonely view. And with the birds I share this lonely view. And with the birds I share this lonely view. In a bathroom stall, a southern girl with a scarlet draw. I wave goodbye to Ma and Pa, 'cause with the birds I'll share. With the birds I'll share this lonely view. And with the birds I'll share this lonely view. Soft spoken with a broken jaw. Step outside but not to brawl. And autumn sweet wind, call it fall. I'll make it to the moon if I have to crawl. And with the birds I share this lonely view. And with the birds I share this lonely view. And with the birds I share this lonely view.
right, welcome back from that music break. And thank you so much for joining us again on Eve's Lounge on Christ 91.1 FM. It's just 30 minutes past 6 p.m. And it's not too late. Yes, we're just about to get into the conversation properly. And wherever you are, like I mentioned earlier, thank you so much for joining us again. I know we've been away for a while and we've apologized. So thank you for coming back. So do well to go join us on Facebook at Christ 91.1 FM, Ibadan. Christ 91.1 FM, Ibadan. And in the course of the conversation, should you have anything to say, should you have any contribution, please drop it in the comments section and we will do well to read out. And in the course of the conversation, we'll also call out the studio line for you to call in and let us know what you think about what we'll be discussing. Okay, so as you all know, Eve's Lounge is about everything and anything about women. We try to make sense of some of the things that are happening that we feel it shouldn't be. It's not right, especially when it has no legal backing, especially when it has no benefit to the womanhood. So we try to talk about it and think about preferred solutions or ways to curb those things. And one of the things we'll be talking about today is female genital mutilation. Female genital mutilation. I'm sure that song I've been singing a lot, like a long time ago. People will say, the Yoruba version will say, Emma dabe formo obiri. Yes, am I correct, Mommy Janet?
Correct.
I'm correct. Okay.
Absolutely.
So do not cut the female child because, of course, it has no health benefits. It has no benefit at all. And it is even a violation of their rights as a female. So we've heard a lot of campaigns, a lot of sensitization. Many people have, in fact, I can remember a lot of times we've come to radio, we've gone on TV to talk about, please end female genital mutilation. And there was some sort of empowerment to these women who, carry out these practices because we feel, okay, if this is your source of livelihood and we need you to stop, we need to empower you so that you can stop. Many organizations, that's NGOs, have done a lot of things as regards that. At least I'm privy to that. And so today we want to talk about the progress so far. We're not even talking about sensitization anymore. Like we are all children of some people. And, when they keep correcting us, when they say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, at some point they want to start seeing changes. So if you repeat the same thing over and over, it becomes like sometimes they always want to use, what's this Omorogun called? You should know, wipe your head. So they want to flog you. But in this case, we can't beat you. We can't flog you. What we can only do is to measure how far, the progress so far, what you have done. And especially for the fact that we have a law guiding this. That's the VAP Act, that's actually prohibiting the harmful traditional practices on women. So what has the law been doing? Has there been any prosecutor like, okay, now you are a perpetrator of female genital mutilation. Has there been anyone paid fine or probably sentenced to jail because you're liable to 4 years in jail or 200,000 naira fine or even both? So we want to make sense of all this and know how far we've gone, if the sensitization is actually working or not. So we can know what else to do because the global goal is to end female genital mutilation by year 2030. So joining us in the conversation to help us tell us the progress that has been made so far and how many, that is our concern, how many people have been persecuted so far that the sensitization has been on. Joining us in the conversation this evening is the male manager, HACEY Initiative, HACEY Health Initiative, Mr. Emmanuel Iyola Oni. Yes, good evening and thank you for joining us.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yes, like when I and my ladies were discussing and she was like that. Jenny was like, oh, the person coming is a man. It makes him very beautiful. And I think the conversation will really be very interesting because you're coming for the cause of a woman and you are a man. So you are saying, please don't cut women again. So, it's actually a beautiful one to hear from the man. And thankfully you are here today. So thank you once more for being here.
Sure, it's a pleasure.
Okay, I'd like to ask you, for how long has HACEY Health Initiative been on this journey of ending female genital mutilation?
All right. So in the last 6 to 7 years, we've had a series of initiatives. The one we're currently on now started about 3 years ago. 3-4 years here. In 2020, we started the current initiative.
Okay, fine. I asked that question because I wanted to know how far you've been there, how far you've been campaigning, promoting awareness and all that. So, has there been any time you've gotten official reports of anyone carrying out this harmful traditional practice on a woman? Like so far, the villages, the rural areas you've been to, have you heard any official reports or cases where someone is being prosecuted for carrying out that practice?
Okay, so I have good news and bad news.
Oh.
As you may, depending on how you want to see it. The good news is that the word is out there. People are more aware, right? People know that this thing is wrong and it's causing a reaction. It's like a ripple effect and it's starting gradually. But the bad news is that even though we have many reported cases, we do not have a prosecuted case, To move from reporting to prosecution takes a lot. If you come to the security agency now and say, oh, I want to report a case of female genital mutilation, they probably take your statement and all of that. Then they need to do investigation. They need to establish witnesses, evidence that they would need for prosecution at the law court. And the law court will need to examine all the exhibits, examine all of the evidences you're presenting, and in the light of the evidence available, make a judgment. And so usually on this journey where we have challenge is to move from reporting to prosecution. Sometimes you have witnesses and a lot of cultural things come up, family members interfering, legal processes. I give you an example. So, okay, I would not want to mention names. Let's just say Lady R. Here in this state, sometimes last year, was it last year? I think it was Q1 this year, January to March. We got a report, and obviously, the state has done a lot, the government, and there's a whole lot of cascade of responses. Once you hear something, call this place, call that place, and all the calls were made, and we rushed down. And after all of that, it's sad to say that the person was not prosecuted because the family members came up, and that is one thing that we are still fighting, right? Despite the fact that we're all professionals, the cultural aspect of even the professionals still come in the way of judgment, right? For example, let's say I'm a security agent, right? And people come to report, I know the law, I know what I'm supposed to do, but there's also a part of me that was brought up in this land. There's also a part of me that respects the culture you're talking about, right? And so after all has been said and done, they can appeal to a part of me that makes it look like, let's bend. Things like, would you report your mother-in-law? Would you report your elder sister? Are you willing to put your own mother in jail if you were the husband and your wife came to report? Would you, sign for your mother to go to jail? So all of these cultural things still affect prosecution. And the why I said it's bad is because where evidences could have been gathered easily, they hide evidence. They hide things that will become exhibits against the perpetrator or the alleged perpetrator in the case. So it makes it very hard for you to, in the end, get a sentence on the side of the law.
Okay, I'd like to inform our listeners, because you are not supposed to be alone. We're supposed to have a representative from the Ministry of Women Affairs who called at a dire minute to say they couldn't make it down today. But I engaged her last night because when she called and to inform me there was nothing we could do, but they gave us dates, 15 days, to be on the show. That's from now. We hope that they will be here because we really need them. But I engaged her last night and she talked about this particular case. So everybody only has this case to talk about. The case of the lady who reported mother-in-law, that's the husband as well, that they mutilated the child. So I'm also privy to that information because we had Mrs. Tolu Babawarum from Center for Population and Reproductive Health sometimes in February. Yes, and she talked about this case, and we've been following as well to know where this would end. And at the moment, the representative from Ministry of Women Affairs said to us that the lady in question, of course, apologies here and there, and people saying, let's just close this case and all that. We've been hearing that. And I'm hoping by the time she comes on air, we would have gotten the final judgment. I'm hoping that we would have gotten the final judgment. So we couldn't have her here. Yeah. But those are our words at the moment. So it's still that one case we have. So the lady as at yesterday wasn't picking the lawyer's call and even picking the calls generally because the CPRH facilitated the case in court. So that's the only one we have. Now that is the only one you also have.
Well, I can't be sure because except I have the details and we have to check.
Okay.
You can't be sure it's what I'm talking about that you're talking about. The scenario may be similar, right? But we can't be sure that it's exactly the same.
Okay, in the same state, because we don't want to mention him, so we'll just let that slide. But then, according to Data Fights, let's talk about the VAP law now that has said, because I don't think culture should be above law. You know, according to Data Fights, that made us understand that 34 states, including the Federal Capital Territory (FCT), have actually domesticated this law.
Yeah.
Domestication meaning now we can, persecute people. We can now arrest people. You can now tell them, okay, you have to pay fine for this or you are sentenced to jail. So what is happening? 34 states, including FCT, domesticated the law. So how come you gave some examples talking about cultural beliefs and maybe some things like would you want to charge your mother-in-law to court or your mother to court and all that. But then if we still have people, maybe emotional emotions in play at this point, what can we then do to end female genital mutilation as regards the VAB Act law?
Yeah, thank you very much. So if you consider Section 6 of the VAP Act, you would see stuff about female genital mutilation, right? And just beneath it, it talks about frustration of investigation, right? In my own opinion, I think that is what we need to do, right? At this time, it's very key. When you have an alleged perpetrator, you want to gather evidence to point to the fact that this person is a perpetrator. But along the line, family members begin to obstruct justice. They should be arrested too. And I give you a case. Sorry, I want to digress a little. Working with, one of the things that is key that I'm still going to come back to, I don't want to jump myself, is the power of synergy and collaboration. So we were in a meeting, sometimes this year, and somebody from the MOJ, Ministry of Justice, was sharing how she was in a rape case actually, and they had brought the girl, they had started an investigation, they had arrested the man, he was remanded, and then the wife was coming every day to ask, please release my husband. Well, he has done something bad, but he's still the father of my children, and he's still my husband, so please release my husband. When she was going to get in the way, she went to secure, so the lawyer in question now had to go secure from the police station, legal documents to arrest the woman, that she was obstructing justice. And I think that is what we need to begin to do for FGM, right? When survivors or bystanders come to report these things and our security agents move to gather evidence, anybody that obstructs the process of evidence gathering or investigation, regardless of who they are or what they represent or stand for, should be arrested. Be it traditional leader, be it head of household.
Even the husband.
Exactly. So you're laughing. And that's the problem.
But how workable are those things? Because I could remember when we had that interview, we mentioned, this our culture that somebody who would want to even see some of these matters to the end, there are sometimes conflicts of interest where they just prefer not to take it to court, so to speak. So how do we go on from here, especially in this part of the world? We see cases like this being treated better abroad because maybe the orientation there is quite different from ours, which is agreeable. But right now, according to the UN, we have over 4 million across the globe that's talking about the prevalence of female genital mutilation, female children that is, and Nigeria ranks third.
Yeah, we have more than 19 million cases.
Imagine. So if we have that much cases, what are the practicable steps that could be taken to maybe make parents, fight tooth and nail, irrespective of whatever might be the situation? There was a case in Lagos sometimes back, I think that was last year, where it was said that a doctor was alleged to be, having carnal knowledge of his patients. It was the wife that came to report to, the court. And at that moment, she must have thought, okay, I do not care. This man must face the wrath of the law. But how many people are willing to do that? So I want us to be practical about these things right now. What are the things that could be done?
So taking it from where you stopped, that is where behavioral change communication comes in. And that is one of the reasons why you see many NGOs still doing awareness campaigns, still doing education and sensitization. The truth is that for people to change behavior, it takes a long period of time. I mean, this is something that from the information we have, they can't even trace when it started. They just know it's part of culture. It's that backward. And so we can't just spend few amount of money or, little efforts and say people will just suddenly drop what they grew up to believe. That's the hardest part. What people grew up. In this fight, I've met people who are educated, teachers. I mean, people who are teachers actually
PhD
supporting this. Yes, supporting this case. I'm like, what's the point of the education?
I mean, if educated people can,
exactly
live like this, how do you even start with the uneducated?
I even learned that it's actually common in the urban area than rural area.
People right here, right now, I mean, because we're on air, I would not want to mention names, but there are people who travel from other states to come to some states or to some part of the state because they know that they can still get it done or something. People come from as far as the north with their girls, even if they are grown up, to come and do it down. People come from Lagos, So it shows that it's not about being in urban or rural. I mean, in our own project, we had a research and we were looking at the factors, that would make you choose to mutilate or not mutilate your child. And we considered education, we considered religion, we considered wealth, right? The results showed that it didn't matter if you were rich or poor. It didn't matter if you were educated or not educated. It didn't affect their intentions to continue the practice, right? Because we saw people from urban area, we saw people who were in the rich, quintile of the
social status,
also saying that they will mutilate their children. So and that's why I said it's a behavioral thing, it's a mental thing, and it takes a lot of work, reworking. The bad parts, or let me say the hardest part, so to say, is that even after all has been said and done, God gave human beings willpower. That's the hardest part. Because I've met people who know the truth. They say, guy, see, we hear you.
Yes.
This thing you are saying, we know.
Yes.
But this is what we choose
to do.
And that is why I said that at that point, the law needs to be very hard. If you obstruct justice, you should suffer for it.
So how hard is this law in your work in fighting against FGM? How hard is the law?
Yeah, so the provisions of the law are there. The VAP acts that you mentioned, even in your state here, there's violence against women law.
Yes.
It criminalizes it. And other states like that have their own state law apart from the VAP Act. And we have our security agencies. We have the Nigerian police, we have the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps. All these people are there, instituted and empowered. They're given authority to ensure that we enforce the law. The issue, however, is that for them to be able to do their job, there are certain requirements, like I said, and that is where the problem is. That is where the enforcement. So enforcement of the law is not just about going to the street, right? To say we are enforcing the law. They must be able to gather evidence. That is where the legal system works. You must be able to prove. So getting to prove this right now is a challenge. How do you prove in court that I saw Mrs. A mutilating? Because you could be passing and say, sorry, permit me to speak vernacular. Now, would you actually enter the house and say, you just have to go on, so gathering evidence to actually prove in court that Mr. A, together with his wife, took their children to Mrs. B to mutilate their children. That's a problem. The police officer cannot go beyond that if he cannot gather evidence. The lawyer depends on the evidence that the policeman brings.
Of course.
And if the policeman wants to go to the society to gather evidence, the family is obstructing it. So you see the cascade.
So the summary of everything you are saying is that one, there's no evidence because of societal family interference.
Exactly. It's hard to gather evidence.
How then do we end this? Because from everything you are saying, it's looking more like a difficult task, an Herculean task to achieve before 2030 to actually put an end to FGM. So looking at all of these, NGOs and governments, Ministry of Women Affairs and everything, how do we do it? How do we put an end to it? The fact that educated people, because just yesterday I had a conversation with someone, also an NGO person, talking about a PhD. She was actually very disappointed in a PhD person, a PhD holder.
Yeah.
Fully in support of FGM.
Yeah, I saw that too. So it's just funny.
It's very funny. So it's not about being educated or not now. It's about societal. So how do we break these societal vices and end this before 2030?
Okay, thank you. A lot is going on, right? But let me start by saying that this is where partnership is important. We have said that we have lawyers, but they are limited. We have security agencies, but they are limited. This is where the third force comes in. The third force includes NGOs, includes community members. And I mentioned the word earlier. This is where bystanders come in.
Okay.
As a bystander in the community, you have a moral responsibility to ensure the security of your fellow residents in the community.
What if the security of the bystander is also affected because the person is trying to secure another person?
So we are aware that there is a social stigma that comes with being a good citizen. We are aware that there is a social insecurity that comes with it. And that is why in some other countries, which is what we are hoping Nigeria begins to do now, in some other countries, they now have safe houses. They have places where survivors can run to, where whistleblowers can run. And it's even what we are advocating for right now. The VAP Act is good, but there isn't sufficient provision for whistleblowers. And so it's one thing we're advocating for now. You know, when there is enough backing for a police officer to protect a whistleblower, he knows that if I protect a whistleblower, it will not backfire. There's a legal backing for it. They can take the person and keep the person and say, on the evidence of this person, we have this and that. But when there is no solid protection for whistleblowers, I mean, the policeman is even handicapped. If he boomerangs, he's unable to effectively protect the person. Right? Yeah, so those are some of the things that we're looking at. So partnership is very important. Partnership. We all need to work together. Everybody has limitations, but together we can break the limitations. And secondly, we need to look at, the gaps and the lacunae in the policies. For example, the whistleblower policy I talked about. We need to look at it. If people begin to do whistleblowing for FGM, how do we ensure that
they are protected?
Exactly.
So from there, let's talk about the culture of silence. How do the culture of silence come in the case of FGM?
Yeah, so let me use the scenario that I used earlier. People have this attitude of, let me mind my business. Primarily because of the social stigma. You know that this is Yoruba land. And we are very, I don't know how to put it. We have very sharp mouths, in quotes, Yes, so if you join a conversation that you're not invited, you will be walked out politely. Some people are not that polite, but some are polite, And so in the name of maintaining my social status in society, I don't want to be rubbished. I don't want to be, you see things going on and you just walk away. Another example I give you is the issue of hierarchy that is very strong in African communities, right? Okay. Male dominance, social hierarchy. Just because somebody is head of society or head of a community and he supports something, other members of the community will not want to go against him. So even when they know something, because the Oga of the community supports it in the courts, they tend to keep quiet, right? Okay. Yeah, so that's another issue that makes the culture of silence very big. People want to be safe. And then even when they want to speak up, say I live in a community A, for example, and the head of the community, even though doesn't publicly support it, but when somebody perpetrates FGM, he doesn't stand with the law to outrightly name the person, shame the person, get them arrested. It's an indirect communication. It's an unwritten law, so to say, that, it's allowed here. And if I want to be the odd one out, I will be facing, it's like 1 against 10,000, So to be safe, let me just keep quiet and assume nothing happens.
Okay, so because we're still talking about ending female genital mutilation and the progress so far, and because we're in Oyo states, okay, I like to channel all our conversation down to Oyo. Pending the time the representative from the Ministry of Women Affairs comes. So if she's listening, I hope she's doing on the groundwork enough, because there will be a lot of questioning for her. So in February 2023, there was a report that preliminary findings from the situation assessment on FGM, according to CAP study in Nigeria, Oyo State precisely, it shows that Kajola local government area of Oyo State has 98% prevalence of female genital mutilation. Yeah. And it is the highest prevalence of FGM in Nigeria.
At the LGA level?
In Nigeria, yes. In Nigeria, 98%. So I was writing in my report that, so it is safe to say that place is a land of FGM practice.
in practical terms, 9 out of every 10 women.
Of course, I like that. So in that community, in that local government area, 9 out of every 10 family, not even women now, family carry out female genital mutilation, and it is Oyo State. This is where we are. So what can we do? We've been talking about this law, the cultural silence, the cultural norm, and not wanting to report, and of course the whistleblower protection. Like this lady we are talking about, the only reports that we've had, the lady as well, when the family are telling us, please close the case, and we're wondering, is there any protection for her? Because definitely she might lose her home. She will definitely lose her home. So what protection is there for her? So now that's using that scheduler as a case study. It is not just scheduler. I also read Oyo West. Yes, they have high prevalence of female genital mutilation. So what can we do? That's what I want us to hammer on, so that the law enforcement agencies can listen. We are actually challenging them, and we're putting this to them, because we need to be part of people who will make that change by year 2030. So what can we do? We are only talking about one lady.
And there are 10,000 other ladies.
And we're talking about 20 million girls.
Of course, like there are a high number of unreported cases as well.
20 million, and we're only having just one person. No, we need to really emphasize on this. It can't be overemphasized. So what can we do? What can the law enforcement agencies do?
Okay, let me start by still saying partnership. And this is what I mean. In September last year, we had a learning and sharing workshop in Ibadan here. And we brought in people from the police, Amotekun, NCDC, lawyers. And we sat down and said, okay, you people have this problem. How do we merge it? One thing I realized is that there is also a challenge of interpretation of law, right? The police officers, or let me say the security officers, let me not be specific, security officers believe that, there is a way they are obstructed in the process. For example, the whole infringement of investigation, I didn't know about it until we were in that learning and sharing session, and the lawyer was like, you have a right to actually sue the person for infringement of investigation. And usually that would calm the case. If you are trying to beg me, and then tomorrow morning they come to your house and say you're under arrest for infringing investigation process, the next person will not want to talk about it.
Absolutely.
So if security officers, for example, are all aware of this, and they know how to initiate this process, how to initiate the process of arresting someone for infringement of investigation process, it will calm a lot of tension. That I believe it, because the truth is this: you asked me what we are going to do. We know what we need to do, but it's hard because willpower is involved. And that's what I'm trying to say. People can choose, even when they know the truth, not to do the truth. And that is why you need to enforce it. That is why they need to see that if you attempt to disobey the law, you would actually suffer for it. And so right now, what we're actually looking at is how to ensure that these laws work. Apart from VAP Act, there are thousands of... Nigeria has signed so many treaties and international laws that if you bring it, you know that there are enough laws to actually prosecute this thing. But the point is that, having seen the truth, how do we put their neck into it? That is why I said it has to be hard. It has to be harsh. Yeah. Because without it, everybody will want to slip away and say, let it not be me. I mean, I have a family.
Absolutely. Everybody would try to protect themselves. Exactly. I understand. Let it not be me.
So from my own experience, field experience, seeing practically, I would say that we just need to be hard with the enforcement. When I say enforcement, in practical terms, enforcement. And it starts from our law enforcement officers, our legal officers. They know the law. They cannot afford to be biased. You can't afford to bend on account of religious affiliation, on account of cultural affiliation, on account of social status. You cannot afford to bend. Somebody's destiny might just be depending on your decision. Somebody's future might be depending on your choice, as it were. So we have a lot of law, and we have enough officers to enforce it. The problem actually is enforcing the
implementation. I mean, we always say, we've always said times without number that Nigeria, as it were, we have enough laws, but how is the implementation like? Exactly. What are the results we are seeing? And quickly, I think this year when the FGM Day was commemorated was when we had the guests come talk about it. The theme was about partnering with men to break some of these norms. And that was why I was telling her earlier that, of course, this is even, amazing that we have a man coming to talk about some of those things. And now I want us to take it to the home where we have the father. And then we talk about this side by side with some of our social norms, because we have some fallacies that people believe is the major reason behind this action. That's the mutilation about, okay, a girl could be promiscuous when some of those things are not done. And the place of men in situations like this, how can they further help the situation?
They have a lot to do, because if you look at the situation, it's like everything is built for men. It's a war in quotes. I don't believe it's a war of men.
Thankfully.
I don't believe it's a unfortunately, we live in a society that it's systemic. The patriarchy is systemic. It's in every system. Everywhere you go, you just see traces of male dominance that is not even necessary, by the way. You don't have to dominate. I, for one, don't like it. I mean, why should I have to suffer myself when somebody can do it? I mean, it's not necessary. But the truth is, it's there. And if you look at it, so let me take it from the story angle. There's a particular tribe of a sect of the Yoruba tribe in southwest Nigeria where they don't mutilate their girls. Maybe you've done your research. I would not want to mention names. You may know them, right? How is it that their girls are not prostitutes? So, sorry, permit me to use that word. Or they are not female sex workers.
Promiscuous, yeah.
All right. So if you say that FGM stops promiscuity, these people don't mutilate their girls, yet their girls are not promiscuous. They are not the only ones we see in commercial sex work. We see all tribes engaging in commercial sex work. So that alone, it's a practical evidence for anybody who tells you that promiscuity is the reason why they engage in FGM. We have a whole sect, a whole tribe in Yoruba land. They don't do it, and they are not. They did not institute commercial sex work.
I was even saying, when you're talking about female genital mutilation to prevent promiscuity, it will even make them explore, because once they don't have sexual pleasure, they want to get that person that at least satisfy them, so they keep going from this to that.
I usually tell young people, men like myself, for example, that they say that men are moved by what you see. Even when you see a lady that is sexually arousing, your brain is not in your boxers, it's in your skull. That's the point. The brain is in the skull. And so anything you feel is not from your reproductive organ, so to say, it's from your head.
Your mind.
What most of these people don't realize is that even the promiscuity that you're talking about, it's a brain thing. It's not a sexual or a genital thing, right? It's in the head. Except you can break the person's skull. You can't stop them from doing what you want to do. So,
exactly.
And that is where behavioral change comes in again. Many of these young girls, you would save them if you give them the right education early on, if you give them the right knowledge, and they need to know their left from their right. Our parents, instead of doing that, they think that going this other route is better.
Okay.
In the end, those girls are useless for even the men you want to save them for.
Okay. In about few minutes, very, very few minutes, please, can you just let's talk about this angle where do you think the jail term, that's 4 years, and the fine 200,000, do you think is really worth that to be taken seriously by anyone to say, okay, I won't do this, and I will do it. I'll go and pay 200,000 naira fine or stay 4 years. Do you think that penalty is proportionate? It's proportionate to the FGM.
It's not stiff. It's not proportionate. If you look at the long-term consequence of FGM and what it does to the survivors, I mean, we have seen things on field. You would see people and you will cry for your life. Like, how should this person live life? If you look at what it does to people, what is 200,000 naira, for God's sake? Maybe back then when they were talking about the law, but now where we are, 200,000 naira, 4 years, it should be like 20 years for a start, like 25 years. You know that if like half of the family goes on 25 years jail time, they will become story for the entire community. Family of Mr. and Mrs. They are still there if you want to join them, And then if you bring the fines like maybe 1 million naira, 200,000 naira is what some people used to buy pepper from the market to cook in a restaurant in a day, or to buy drink, or, people want to just hang out on weekends. They burn as much as that because they have the resource.
Thank you so much for that words, for that contribution. So there's actually an organization, a non-governmental organization that is also working to end female genital mutilation. They are actually doing their best, and they are called Initiative for Girls' Rights and Health Development. It's a non-governmental organization, NGO, that promotes sexual and reproductive health education for girls in rural areas. It's a grassroots organization. They deal with grassroots advocacy. And so they give comprehensive sexuality education to help the girl child make informed decisions, and also weaken harmful practices such as female genital mutilation, FGM that we're talking about, sexual and gender-based violence, SGBV, child abuse, among others. IGRHD, that's the acronym for the Initiative for Girls' Rights and Health Development, is a youth-led organization advancing the global campaign to end harmful practices. As we speak, the founder is in Kigali, also trying to discuss ways to foster relationship to end female genital mutilation, not even just about national thing now, about a global thing. So, and now IGRHD is urging everyone to work together to end female genital mutilation and other forms of violations of children's rights, women's rights, and even human rights. And it's the organization is one that at the moment they're also listening to this conversation, and they are saying wherever you see any case of female genital mutilation or anything at all that has to do with women that is so harmful to women, you should not hesitate to reach out to them, because this is what they want to do. We are talking about effecting the law now, making the law effective. So they are all for that too. We want to start seeing people being persecuted, people who are carrying out these harmful practices being persecuted. And they are saying, should you by any means find out or be there or see, that is first, you are educated and well learned to understand that it is not right. So you should be the first to even speak out. Like we were talking about the whistleblower. Of course, we cannot say that there is protection for you, but then at IGRHD, because they have legal backing as well to protect you, So do not hesitate to reach them on 081 68953085. I'll call the numbers again: 081 68953085. Should you be anywhere at the moment and this actually concerns you, I really need to take active step. In fact, you're tired, you've talked and it seems nothing is happening. Aside the empowerment program that they've actually lined up for you, for anyone, okay, if you feel this is your source of livelihood, or even if you are one of those who carry out these practices, like those women who use those blades to cut those girls, and if you feel it is your source of livelihood, they actually empower women. Yes, you can actually stop it. It's a one-on-one conversation with them. You can call the number again, 081 68953085. You call the number, explain to them, yes, you want to stop it because you've been sensitized and you can see that it's actually not meaningful. You can call that number and speak to them. They will empower you. In fact, you get something better. How much do you get from buying blade to cut the female child? How much do you get from that? So how much do you even get in doing, how much? I can't even imagine that you can collect 5,000 or 1,000 or 2,000 to do that. So why hurt a girl child because of that? So why not speak to them so that they can empower you? You can also reach out to them on their social media platforms, IGRH Developments, or you call the number again, is 081 68953085.
Absolutely. It's amazing to see, people working together to make sure there is a stop to this thing. I mean, we can always mention government, but then what about the people? It's good to see organizations, and it is up to all of us to, join hands and fight this female genital mutilation. And I think it's the onus is on all of us, as it were, because all of this cannot be on the government alone. It can't be on the organizations alone. What part are you playing to make sure that the society that we are in is, better for everybody, gender irrespective, social status irrespective, religion irrespective. So I think this is a wake-up call to everybody.
Yes, so once again, the Initiative for Girls' Rights and Health Development are urging you, like Jenny rightly said, we can do it alone. The government can't do it alone. So they are taking it upon themselves to also, take the bull by its horn and then say, if you by any means see anybody being mutilated, any girl child being mutilated, or you have a family going through some chaos about this mutilation or not, or you are sensitizing people like that PhD holder that is saying, that is insisting that he will go on to mutilate the girl child. So if you have such people around you and you think they need to be sensitized, or that community, they need to come there and come and talk some senses into them, please do not hesitate to reach out to the number again, 081 68 953085. And at the moment, like I said, IGRHD is a globally recognized organization, a non-governmental organization, and the founder, Yobelu Awodoyin, is currently in Kigali, trying to get funds as well, because this thing actually needs funds. I'm talking about empowerment now, because they need, if you want to be empowered, they need money. So she's actually there discussing all of these things. She'll get funds to empower you if that is the problem. You want good job at B so that you can leave this thing. Okay. So she's there to discuss the funds as well. And I also know that HACEY Health Initiative, the founder, is also in Kigali at the moment, also discussing all of these things. So once again, please write down the number. Aside the fact that you can always call us on Crest 91.1 FM as well, you can call our studio lines, which I'll call out in a few minutes. Please take down this number, 081-6895-3085. It's the number to contact Initiative for Girls' Rights and Health Development, IGRHD on. Their office is at Ileife actually, but then they're anywhere, everywhere. Just like this particular network that I don't want to mention. Yes, IGRHD is everywhere. You can always contact them. Once again, 081-6895-3085. Save it with IGRHD, or you can save it with FGM. You can save it with anti-FGM. Yes, I think that's even better. Save it with anti-FGM so that you can call there whenever you see anything. Not just FGM, anything that has to do with
any harmful practice. Exactly.
On ladies, on women. Be it rape, be it child abuse, please call that number. They will answer you. They will attend to it urgently, and they have legal backing. So they work with law enforcement agencies to carry out all of these things. So because we are all for impacting positive behavioral changes, like our guest mentioned. So thank you so much for being a part of the show. Thank you so much once again, Mr. Emmanuel Iyola Oni. That's the male manager. Yes, you were trying to explain that male before.
MERL.
Yeah, MERL.
Exactly.
Yes.
Monitoring, evaluation, research, and learning manager.
I mean, that's a whole lot.
A whole lot. Research, evaluation, monitoring.
I mean,
3 in 1.
A whole lot. So, a final word from my ladies before we draw the curtain for today.
I mean, all has been said, but at the same time, we would only keep talking about these things if that is what it would take to make things better in our environment. Do not keep quiet. Do not encourage the culture of silence that we are used to in this part of the world. My name is Genital Mutilation, and of course, it's always a pleasure to do Eve's Lounge with, the amazing ladies right here.
Okay, Juliet.
Okay. All I just want to say is, if you're still into FGM, if you're encouraging it in any form, in any way, I just hope that the Lord catches up with you one day.
Violence.
He actually said that we should go
the preacher of what?
He said we should go the violence.
Okay, that's all right. So I have a good news from you, also from Initiative for Girls' Rights and Health Development. They said, so wherever you are listening to us right now, you can be a beneficiary of this airtime. Yes, 1,000 naira airtime. I'm calling the amount so that you don't come and be saying 1,000 naira airtime for just 2 people. So what you just do to be a beneficiary of this, the first to comment on Facebook, that's it. The first to comment on Facebook. And not just comment, don't go out there and go and say hello and you think I'll pick you. No, you have to comment on what we talked about.
Some people would say Omo Efa.
They know themselves. They know themselves. We don't want Omo Efa. No. Go there, drop something about FGM. Yes, drop something about the conversation we had today. That's female genital mutilation, FGM, on that Facebook post on the comment section. Drop it there. So the first 2 comments there, I would definitely pick you and send you airtime, 1,000 naira airtime. So Ori now go to at Crest 91.1 FM, Ibadan. Crest 91.1 FM, Ibadan. Remember, this is courtesy of Initiative for Girls' Rights and Health Development, IGRHD. And don't forget to call that number whenever you see anything that has to do with harmful traditional practices on the female gender. My name is Damilola Amo Damster. Thank you for being a part of the show. And
Genital Mutilation, you can call me Jane.
Okay, and are you smiling? You don't forget your name. Okay. And then
Juliet Buddha.
All right, thank you so much. And until next time, bye for now.
A woman who was killed before she died left some notes, but I am the only one who knows